Today, Clayton was going to propose to Gina. Their relationship had lasted a year. Gina was 32 years old and Clayton was 37. His first marriage was unsuccessful. The man dreamed of having a large family. He imagined how his child will make the first steps. Clayton founded 2 successful companies and was earning more than he was spending. His wife was a beauty and spent a lot of time in the beauty salons. But after living with her for a long time, Clayton became concerned that they had no children and began to insist that his wife go to the doctor. But she always answered that she had already been to the doctor and there was nothing wrong with her. So Clayton decided to have his health checked. When he visited the clinic, he was surprised to find out that the owner was his childhood friend, with whom he had not been in touch for a long time. In the director's office over a cup of coffee, Clayton discovered his wife's terrible secret. She had visited this clinic more than once before, but for a very different reason. It was a doctor-patient confidentiality and should not be disclosed. But under pressure from Clayton, a friend reluctantly told him that his wife had had 2 abortions at his clinic. After this news, Clayton was crushed. Hatred for her flared up in his soul. He made a scandal at home. But his wife was not afraid of his anger, and as if nothing had happened, explained that she wanted to remain a beautiful woman, and she had many interests besides childcare. Clayton was shocked at what was really in her heart. He packed his things and left her. The divorce was very difficult. She tried to sue the whole business for herself, so she could live prosperously. During the divorce, he found out about her cheating and it took a long time to come away from the betrayal. Eventually, they split the business in half. And it took Clayton a long time to dare to have a new relationship. A few years later, he met Gina. He had known her for a long time ago, and she was married at the time. They had met a couple of times at parties, and the man always remembered her as a kind and cheerful woman. When he met her a year ago, he didn't even recognize her. Gina was divorced, and her look was dull and lifeless. Clayton didn't know anything about what happened to her. She never told him, and he never asked her, afraid to touch old wounds of her soul. He tried to find out from acquaintances where her husband had disappeared and why his company had gone bankrupt, but to no avail. Gina was looking at Clayton and realizing that he was the best man in the world. She wanted to tell him her secret, but she was very afraid that he would not understand and leave her. The woman knew that she could not start life with deception, and she had to somehow make up her mind. But she was feeling bad, seeing how Clayton wanted children. She wanted to become a mother as well, but her terrible deed in the past would hardly allow it to happen. Many years ago, Gina was happily married. She became pregnant and immediately informed her husband of this joyful news. But to her surprise, he was not happy and even angry. He had changed a lot in the last month. He had become rude and often insulted Gina. One day, he overstepped his bounds and pushed Gina strongly. She fell on her stomach and went into premature labor. When the baby came, the doctors whispered quietly and Gina anxiously asked if her daughter was alive. The doctors said that she had a deformed hand and one ear, but otherwise the girl was perfectly healthy. Also, they assured the woman that this is not a problem and in the future she can be operated on and everything will be fine. But Gina didn't care. She had already fallen deeply in love with her daughter. Soon her baby was brought to her. Gina fed her and then decided to take a look. She carefully unwrapped the swaddling clothes and saw a twisted ear and undivided fingers. The next day, her husband came in. When he saw his daughter, he called her ugly and was insistent on giving her up. Gina was shocked, but she wasn't going to give up her daughter. She'd rather leave her husband, but she wouldn't leave her daughter. So her husband devised a cunning plan. He paid the doctor to give Gina a sedative. When she drank the medicine brought, she soon felt a strange desire to agree with everything. At that moment, her husband gave her a document to sign. She signed without looking, and then he kissed her and told her to rest. The next day, Gina was sedated again and her husband took her home without her daughter. At home, he told her that she had given up the baby herself. Gina did not understand how she had given up and what had happened. She screamed and passed out. A week later, she came to her senses and went to the police. She was sure she had been given something that had clouded her mind, but she had no proof. There she was told that her daughter was not worth looking for. She was already with another family. Gina was hospitalized again due to a nervous breakdown. She was discharged a month later, and she immediately filed for divorce. She didn't want anything from her husband, so after the divorce, she left the city. She returned only when she found out her husband was in debt, and he ran away. And that's when she met Clayton. Gina knew Clayton was going to propose to her, and she was sure once he found out that she had given up her daughter, their relationship would be over. One day, they were walking in the park. Gina loved to feed the ducks. Clayton knew this, so he always bought bird feed. Suddenly, a girl standing nearby asked to feed the ducks, too. Clayton and Gina said hello, and the girl introduced herself as Carrie. When Gina asked where her parents were, the girl sadly told him that she lived in an orphanage and was bullied there, so sometimes she ran to the pond to feed the ducks. Gina sympathetically asked why such a sweet girl could be mocked. And then the girl took her hand out of her pocket and the woman saw the familiar finger's defect. Gina flinched, but when the girl removed hair from her ear with that hand, she almost passed out from the shock. Clayton rushed to Gina and brought her to her senses. When they looked around, the girl was gone. And at that moment, Gina burst into tears and told her secret. Clayton didn't understand much, but Gina suddenly ran down the alley toward the car. She decided to find her daughter by all means. The man waited for a while and then ran after her. He caught up with Gina, they got into the car and drove to a nearby orphanage. Gina ran into the building and almost immediately found the principal's office. The director, seeing how excited the woman was, welcomed her immediately and listened to the story Gina told him. Clayton sat beside Gina the whole time. When she finished her story, the principal reported that indeed, they have a girl named Carrie with that description. She was very kind and intelligent, but because of her physical disabilities, she was not being adopted. Gina immediately exclaimed that she agreed. When the director was talking about the necessary documents, it turned out that it is highly recommended that the adoptive parents should be a married couple, otherwise there may be questions from the guardianship authorities. Gina immediately got discouraged and said that unfortunately she was single. But suddenly Clayton smiled and told the principal that they would fix that tomorrow. Gina was stunned, and Clayton got a list of documents from the principal, and the couple left the orphanage. In the car, Gina asked if Clayton was serious about marrying her after finding out what she had done years ago. Clayton kissed her and told that his fiancée was innocent and they would marry tomorrow. That same day, he asked his lawyer to do everything possible to adopt the girl as soon as they could. The next day, Clayton and Gina were married. They celebrated this significant day together in a cozy restaurant. 2 weeks passed and all the formalities were done, and Gina and Clayton adopted the girl. When they picked her up, Carrie was incredibly happy to find a family, and many tears of joy were shed in this day. A few days later, Clayton found a good plastic surgery clinic. And Gina thanked God that she had met such a decent man. When he asked if Gina would do a DNA test, she said of course it didn't matter because Carrie became already her daughter. But to take the load off mind, she'll do it. A week later, Gina received a positive test. Several years later, after a few surgeries, nothing but memories reminded that Carrie had any flaws. Gina gave birth to Clayton's son, and the man finally had the big family he had dreamed of.